And we're off, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It's been a while since I've recorded one on my own, and I'm excited to do this. Here we are. This will be number 22. This will be number 22. Last week I did one with a colleague of mine, Miss Williams, and it's been like a couple weeks since I've recorded a solo one. So here we are. I'm excited to do this, both to share the recent happenings, the recent things that have been on my mind, but then also, once again, for me to just sit and reflect, flesh a couple things out. I do have some ideas that I jotted down in no particular order. So the hope is, once I get going, I can find a way to connect all of them. Other than that, if you're tuning in, thank you. Hope you're doing well. Hope whatever you're doing in your life right now is either going well or you have the strength to endure whatever it is that's happening in your life at the moment. So the first thing I wanted to do is just catch up. Catch up, things that I've been doing recently, reflect on it myself. It's been quite hectic, let's say. I kind of anticipated this towards the end of March. I was like, I know April and May are really going to pick up, and I think May in some ways picked up, but in some ways also is like kind of chill. But anyways, just where I'm at with everything. So teaching at the moment, we're doing state testing. So that's a part that's actually kind of been chill, where a portion of the day is devoted to testing. So everybody has to be locked in doing the same thing at that time. So I don't really have to plan too much other than just facilitate. And then given that we are testing, I'm just trying to keep the assignments pretty low key, but also engaging for the students. So some projects, putting together some slideshows, all related to the curriculum to some extent. Today we, funny enough, just started talking about World War I because one of the students had some questions about World War II, and it's actually an interesting situation. She wasn't aware of what had happened, and it just caught me off guard, right? It caught me off guard because in my head it was just an assumption that everybody was familiar with World War II. If I said World War I earlier, I meant World War II. Yes, this girl, she wasn't familiar with World War II. And it really caught me off guard, but then I paused for a moment and thought to myself, like, wait, yeah, that could make sense because she's only in 6th grade, so unless a teacher went out of their way up until this point, I don't think it would have been covered, at least in very much detail. So I thought about that when I went home yesterday, and then came in today with some notes. I found a slideshow on World War I, and so we went through that really quick, which I thought was pretty efficient. There was a video that I used, I forget, oversimplified on YouTube. It's pretty cool, pretty engaging, great for kids. But I did the slides, I went through it, and then we watched the video after, and I think most of them were pretty engaged, understood the situation. And then the reason I did that was just to kind of build the lead up to World War II, which I think obviously is relevant, understanding why World War II got started. So that's kind of where we're at on the school stuff. Just working on projects. I think by the end of this week we'll be done with testing. So, excuse me. Next couple weeks will be, project focus, finishing up missing work. And just kind of gearing up for the end of the year, which is wild. But here we are. It's great. It's good. It's good to be here. Good to have made it this far, and hopefully I can finish the year. With the basketball stuff, kind of doing a lot there still, but all good stuff. So I've been coaching a 5th and 6th grade team, pretty much for the past month and a half. And we're kind of wrapping up too. We probably have about two, 3 tournaments more. Been a lot of fun, but obviously also a lot of time. Good thing about it is that most of our tournaments are local, so I don't have to drive too far. But they do play 2 games on Saturdays, so it's usually a couple hours out the day. It's my Saturdays and then 2 to 3 days a week of practice. But I'm really proud of our group. It's been a lot of fun. We've been competing recently. We've been playing in some good games, some exciting games, which is always cool. And so, and a decent amount of the kids are figuring it out. They're growing. They're figuring out the game, figuring out the speed, knowing where to go, where to get their shots. So it's been really cool to see that and be a part of that. Still doing my training thing, which is a little bit slow just because it's been more focused on the team, and then teaching has taken up a decent amount of time too. But there's still a couple kids where that are working with me personally, and then I'm still teaching my classes at the facility, the gym. So that's cool, meeting a lot of new kids on that front too. A lot of beginners, so really you got to stay patient with them. But yeah, just out there still doing the training side. A little bit slow on my Instagram. I haven't really been active on the Instagram recently, which is tough because for a good portion I was pretty active, trying to do at least one thing a week. But yeah, man, it's been a whirlwind, spinning a lot of plates, if you can imagine that. On top of, oh yeah, here's one more thing, basketball related. I didn't even touch on, didn't even realize, but I started playing in an adult league with some friends. We put a team together. We're 2 games in, 1-1 so far, and that's been a lot of fun. But it's also been an interesting experience, let's say. What can I say about it? So for some context, I had known that this adult league existed. A couple friends have already played, and then we just have a lot of friends that are pretty cool with each other, that are pretty good at basketball. And we're like, yeah, let's just mess around, put a team together, see what happens, and just really just have fun, I think, is the primary intention with getting it started. Obviously, we're trying to win and make something happen, but I think for us, it's just like hooping with the homies, essentially. But yeah, we're 1-1. First game was pretty chill, felt in control the whole game, won by 15. Second game was really interesting. Just some big overall takeaways, observations. It was really physical. I think the other team came in with the mentality of trying to bully us. There was a lot of shit talking going on. Very physical on their part. The referees was really interesting though, because they were pretty physical with us. Not a lot of calls on our end, but we would try to match the energy, in some extent just play good defense, and we got a lot of ticky-tack calls on us, which was tough. But I think for our team overall, we were just playing a little bit too fast, we weren't getting a lot of ball movement. It was kind of 1 or 2 pass shots, and a decent amount of turnovers. So all to say, we played pretty poorly and only ended up losing by 8 points. So a lot of things against us. Very spicy game, but we're pretty close towards the end. I think if we cleaned up the fouling, cleaned up our getting back on defense also was a kind of a problem, but I guess it's related. It's definitely related to the turnovers, because you turn the ball over, most likely it's going to lead to a fast break. Anyhow, a whole lot of stuff there, but for me personally, I'll start with me personally. It's been fun. People have asked me before to do an adult league, but I know the type of person that I am, and usually once I'm competing, I'm really trying to give it my all. and that's cool. Like I'm down for that, but I've always been hesitant because I know like I'm gonna go 110%. At least I'm gonna try to. That's what I'm gonna give. And I think I've like mentally prior to this situation, I've been like I've kind of moved on from competing, right? Like I enjoy playing pickup basketball. I like playing with my friends. I like playing for fun. But the idea of competing it's a different mentality if you're really about it. So I've kind of been hesitant. That's why. But again, because a lot of my friends were interested, I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm kind of in that mode of life right now too, where I'm just like doing stuff just to see and live life essentially. So here we are. But yeah, for me personally, I think those first 2 games, it really like there's a difference, right? I knew it was different, but feeling it is a different process. Like the game speed and the physicality and the intensity, it's all there, which is cool. Like it's a different element, it's a different setting than pickup, where I do try to bring the intensity, right? But you know, in pickup, people take plays off. Sometimes it's chill, you're joking around. In this kind of setting, it's like game on. You don't care about who's on the other side. You're trying to bully them. You're trying to punk them. You're going to do whatever it takes to win. And so, it's, like I said, it's a different mentality. But I kind of like it. I think for me, I don't know. It's part of the mode that I'm in my life right now, but I'm just trying to embrace the challenge, right? Like you're gonna play in some intense games. These are some big dudes out there that are, you know, really trying to live out their hoop dreams or just really good, or both, whatever. So it's not gonna be easy. You're gonna have to really be on it. You're gonna have to play smart. You're gonna have to be crafty. You're gonna have to be one step ahead. All the stuff that I'm telling my players and the kids that I train, like, you know, looking in the mirror and thinking about, okay, yep, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to clean up. So that part has been a lot of fun. I think it'll make me a better basketball player. We play 5 games. So, yeah, we have 3 more. Hopefully, if we make it to the playoffs, we'll have a couple more after that. But yeah, for me personally, I'm enjoying it. At the end of the day, it's about having fun, but it's also like, yeah, I like being in the fire. I like being in the arena, competing against, you know, other people that are really the sharks and the wolves is what I tell my kids. Like, you play this game, that probably doesn't matter what sport. Once the competition gets to a high enough level, you're going to be swimming with the sharks and the wolves. So it's a mentality. It's not for everybody, but it's kind of fun when you're in the midst of it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm pretty confident in our team. It'll be, again, like I said, it'll be tough, but I'm pretty confident that if we can just have fun as much as possible, have a good time, play the right way, share the ball, which we usually do. And that's kind of what our game plan, our mentality coming into all of this is. I think we'll be all right. But yeah, that's kind of been another fun, spicy part of my life, is doing this adult league. And I forgot what I was going to lead up to. Oh yeah, I was just kind of sharing a lot of the things that that has been taking up my time recently. And again, this is all like things that I'm signing up for, I'm taking on. So a lot of plates spinning. Every day is full, really. But it's been good. I think at the end of this month, and we finish school at like mid-June pretty much, which kind of sucks because we get out later than most other schools. But that's okay. Pretty much by the end of May, I think I'm going to be hard chilling. I think I've, take a couple weeks off just to chill pretty much. Go do some road tripping, camping, something like that, where I'm just, not thinking about too many obligations, too many responsibilities, and just go sightseeing, go camping, go do some hiking, go eat, go listen to some music, stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited about that. And is there anything else that I can share about the recent happenings? Yep, that's good. let's take a look at what I jotted down. Yes. So I already kind of talked about it a little bit, but let me just specify. So one other thing that personally I take away from playing in this adult league, and just in general, so I've played basketball pretty much my whole life, if you're not familiar, but so that's about 20 years. And what I enjoy, what kind of gives me a thrill and gets me in that competitive mindset, is usually playing against people that might be better than me, right? Constantly putting myself in those situations. And the way I think about it is like in a video game, when you're fighting bosses, as you progress in the video game, you're going to fight harder bosses eventually until you get to the final boss. But the cool thing about basketball is, like in real life, is that there's no final boss. Unless you're LeBron James, Steph Curry, Giannis, those types, there's probably always going to be someone better than you. And I think for me, it's just an important thing to, keep a part of you or just to remember, I guess, it's a good thing to remember that no matter how good you might feel, no matter how good you might be in that time, in that place, there's probably somebody out there that's just as good, 2 times as good, effortlessly as good, and you've got to be willing to accept that. Be willing to accept that, willing to acknowledge that, but then on top of that, at least for me, how I approach it is like be totally willing to compete with those people. Like, all right, if we're gonna play, I'm not gonna back down. I'm gonna step up. I'm gonna give this my all, and we're gonna see what happens by the end of it. And it took me a while to develop that mentality, like fully. I would say like 9th grade, 10th grade is when it happened for me, because usually I would, see a formidable opponent and kind of get nervous and, back down a little bit, get intimidated, all that stuff. It's still, that feeling is still there. Like in the same way that I'm a shy person and I can't really shake my nerves in certain situations, or, I feel them strongly. The feeling of being intimidated or facing a formidable opponent is still there, but I think I've grown a little bit more. I've gotten stronger. I've gotten more confident in my abilities. And so this adult league situation is precisely that, because I look around, I see a lot of formidable opponents. I know these games, like I mentioned already, I know these games are going to be tough, but part of it is exciting. Part of it is, this is what I'm seeking out. Like I want to be pushed. I want to be challenged. I want to test the limits of my basketball abilities. And just in these 2 games so far, I've already learned quite a bit. Like I've studied what happened. I've studied where I went wrong, and I look forward to continuing to figure it out. I think that's the beauty. I think that if you ask any athlete that takes their craft seriously and wants to get better, I think this is exactly what you want. It's opportunities to learn, to be in the fire, to struggle. This idea of facing harder bosses is another thing that came away from this adult league experience. And coming out of it, I think I'll be a better basketball player. I think I'll be reminded of the feelings, so that when it comes up with my players in situations like that, I'll be able to coach them and give them some, guidance, some real recent guidance, which is cool. And I'm having a good time too. I think, again, the goal of this is just to hoop, to try to hoop at a high level and get some wins, but, just have a good time. Mess around with the homies, pretty much. Let's see. Yeah, why not? There's another thing that I guess I'll share this because it's been on my mind, and I don't know if it'll resonate with people, but so be it. This is what we're here for, to just share things. But essentially what I wanted to talk about was leadership, and just like this weird relationship that I've had with leadership to really throughout my whole life. So pretty much, how can I explain it conceptually? For whatever reason, in the social circles, my friend groups, I've always kind of been I think the word is de facto. Let me see. I'm gonna have to look this up. De facto meaning de facto. Yeah, I guess, yeah. So de facto means from a legal concept used to refer to what happens in reality or practice. So yeah, pretty much like, for whatever reason, I always end up like as a facilitator, a leader. So in the friend situation, it'll be like me organizing plans for like a group of 3, 4, 5 friends and kind of orchestrating that. In the basketball situation, I remember the first travel team that I played on, for whatever reason, the coach decided it was part of the position that I played. So point guard, they generally are seen as the leader, but in sports, anybody can be the leader. But for basketball, they consider point guards to be the leaders. So the coach, my coach at the time, shout out to Coach Shaw, he pretty much designated me as the leader, and I'm like 6th, 7th grade at this time, and he's asking me to get on these other guys and coach them up and tell them where they need to be. I'm like, bruh, I'm a shy guy. I don't really raise my voice like that. I'm afraid of confrontation. Let me just do me. But he really pushed me. He was like, no, if this team is going to be successful, like, you got to be the one to rally the troops, pretty much. So there was that too. And then, man, there was a situation in high school. I talked about it a little bit before, but it was pretty much my high school basketball situation my junior year. Kind of one of the leaders of the team. And then once that whole situation started, was kind of like a focal point, spokesperson for our team. And the situation with the friends, it continued in college. Like, I would most of the time be the one orchestrating, but I had a few friends that would make plans, but most of the time, if something were to happen, it would be me orchestrating. And then recently too, fast forward to the past couple of years, for whatever reason, it still always happens that way where, if you want something done, you kind of got to facilitate it on your own. And I have a really interesting relationship with that. Like, part of me enjoys it. I like facilitating because when things turn out well, it's actually a good time. You're proud of the work. You're grateful to have brought people together. I usually am, and usually is a good time. And you feel good about it. Everybody goes away feeling happy, appreciative. But then also at the same time, I can be kind of cynical and be like, why isn't anybody else doing this? Nobody's in orchestrating stuff, coordinating, leading the way, making it easy, convenient for everybody. So yeah, I can kind of go both ways on it. But the reason I brought it up is because it's kind of happened a lot recently. And I joke with my friends about it because it's happened with the guys I met through basketball, but they'll pretty much ask me like, oh, do you want to keep playing? Do you want to play tomorrow? And they're always asking me. And it's like a pretty uncomfortable situation because I don't know the answer to that question for myself. But I know because they said it themselves, like, I know their answer depends on my answer. So it's like, bro, just make up your own choice. Why are you asking me? But I know they want to know, just so, because I guess they're cool. We're cool with each other. We're good friends. We like playing basketball together. So it makes sense. But then also at the same time, like, I'm trying to push these guys to be grown men and make their own choices and, make your own choices pretty much. Part of it also is I feel like I'm making, and I imagine most people probably feel this way, but, for me especially, I feel like I'm making a whole bunch of decisions every day. And I think the neuroscientists, the cognitive scientists, people probably could tell you that it's pretty taxing to make a whole bunch of decisions, especially when you're trying to be thoughtful and careful and calculated about everything. Especially if you're an overthinker, it probably is pretty taxing to make a whole bunch of decisions. And so when people kind of put me in those situations where I have to kind of facilitate or lead, it's a little bit deep down, it's pretty irritating. But again, like, I understand. So part of it is me accepting, like, maybe that for whatever reason the universe or God put you on earth to kind of be in these positions because he sees you as a facilitator of things. So embrace that. And it's part of something that I've brought up before, but worth bringing up again, is the Latin phrase Amor Fati. Pretty much means love your fate. And Nietzsche had a quote about it. It's like, one should not want anything to be different now, before, in the future. Just be totally accepting of whatever it is that comes your way. The Stoics have a similar idea, like, what does nature owe you? Like, nature does not owe you whatever it is that you desire. It's going to happen the way it's going to happen, and you should be okay with that. Be okay with whatever the outcome is, right? Even though we hope, even though we may have worked hard our entire life, like, maybe nature at the end bites you in the butt and just does you dirty. That's the reality of the world that we live in. And maybe I believe that there's some peace that can come from saying, yes, this is my fate, this is my circumstances. I accept that fully. Now, once you get going in that and life hits you all kinds of ways, I'm sure it's really hard to maintain that. But that's kind of the mentality that I've tried to adopt recently with all of this, is just like, yeah, maybe the universe or God has put you on earth to facilitate, to be a leader. For whatever reason, the leader trust you, they'll follow behind you. I don't even like that either. Maybe there's like, trust that the direction we are all walking is the right direction. Maybe that's part of it too, is like, who am I to be leading, right? But anyways, that's my interpretation, and I'm running with it. It feels good, and it's a good reminder again to, like, the concept of Amor Fati. Just whatever your life circumstances are, don't stop fighting for change. Like, be an active driver, like, direct your life. Don't let it happen to you, right? But there are certain things that happen, or there's certain parts about yourself deep down inside that, for whatever reason, that those are your circumstances. That's you. And again, I strongly believe that there's a lot of peace and calmness that can come from acceptance, right? These are certain features about me that I accept. I may not be all the way happy with it, but I accept it. This is me. So yeah, that's another thought that has come from all of this. It's recent, related to the basketball stuff, but just in general, again, just this idea of being a leader and leadership and all that kind of stuff. You know what? I think that's a good place to stop. I thought it was going to be a little bit longer, but it's cool because honestly, everything that I talked about today touched upon the topics that I wrote down. So I'll just read it just for context if you made it this far. So what I wrote was catch up, hard bosses, and humility, which I didn't really touch upon, but kind of did conceptually. Is just like acknowledging that I'm not as good. And no matter how good I think I might be, and no matter how good I am, I know that I'm not the best. I don't even come close, right? So just remember that. But don't let that prevent you from competing. You're still the shit. You should act like it, play like it, believe in yourself. Go do it. I wrote down Nietzsche because it's related to, just that idea of putting yourself in the fire and walking through it, competing, facing hard bosses. I think Nietzsche that would resonate with him a lot. I talked about leadership. Remembering to have fun, I think, is important, especially when competing. Like, a lot of these guys, they trying to win, but a lot of them are probably trying to live out their NBA hoop dreams, talking about this game, that game. It's like, bro, we just playing basketball. In Manteca, California, as one of my homies put it. I put connecting with people, but honestly, I think that one I could probably touch upon later. And then I wrote down Amor Fati, and not wishing it to be any other way, right? So once again, whatever circumstances life gives you, it's hard. It's not going to be easy, right, when life gives you all the twists and turns that it does. But again, there's, I believe, some peace and calmness that can come from acceptance. So we'll leave it at that. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. Let me know what you think. This was kind of a good little check-in from me. 30 minutes only, too, so I got some time before I got basketball practice in an hour. Thank you for listening. I hope you're doing well. Keep me posted. Hit me up. And Warriors in 7.